Welcome to The Call to Create. I'm your host, Charlie Teal, and today on the show we get to sit down with a woman who is a driving force in Central Oregon when it comes to anything creative, and she seems to pull it off with style and with elegance and with energy. Renee Mitchell is a powerhouse. Here we are. We finally, after fighting to put this together for months now, we finally get to sit down and have a conversation. And I have to say, you stand out in my mind as one of the people. When we first moved here, it seemed like everywhere we went, every event we went to, you had a hand in it. And I was just like, wow, okay, Renee Mitchell, she is a person to know in this town because she has things going on, making things happen. And I was checking your website, and it's crazy, the list of organizations that you participate in, like Scale House and the Public Art Thing, and Caldera, and you're on the advisory board of Ben Film, and you're on the advisory board of some other things. And I mean, the question, it's like that cliche question of, how and why do you do all of this stuff?
Well, I've sometimes been criticized that I do too much.
Would that be your children that give you that criticism? Or?
No, not necessarily. As my children get older, they definitely think that. When they were younger, it was a little bit easier because they went to school, they had after-school care. And now, as they're older, especially my oldest, who's in middle school, she's as busy, if not busier, than I am.
Okay.
I wonder where she got that from.
Right, yeah.
But she wants to be involved with a lot of activities, art, track, soccer. And so it's definitely getting more challenging to do all the things that I love to do that fill my cup.
Right.
Because I know my number one priority is taking care of them.
Right.
But when asked why I do what I do in the arts, it really stems back to being a little girl and going to a writing class when I was in third grade.
Okay.
And I was asked to write about something that had happened in my life. So as a third grader, I'm thinking, But my parents divorced at a really young age. When I was young, I was 2 years old, and in third grade, my mom remarried, and my stepfather adopted me. And I remember clearly going to the courthouse and signing the document that my last name would change.
Oh, wow.
And I was really lucky. My mom married a great man. He raised me. I'm really lucky. I have a wonderful father. I have two fathers. They both walked me down the aisle. They're both part of my life. But when I was prompted with this question in the third grade, I wrote about it. And I wrote about what it really felt like to have your name changed. I had an S as a last name. I was a Stefani, and then it changed to B. Bristow. So I had to go to the front of the line instead of the end of the line.
Right.
And I had to stand in front of the class and explain why my name changed.
Really?
And a little boy asked me, "Did you get married?" No, I did not get married.
Right.
And so I had to explain this. But I remember clearly writing out my feelings about it, and the teacher coming to me and saying, "You should really look into writing. You were able to articulate and express yourself in a certain way that a lot of third graders cannot speak to or about."
Wow.
So I remember leaving the class, walking on the grass, looking down and thinking, I like this. I want to do more of it.
Okay.
But I never did. I never did. I never took any art classes. I never took any writing classes. It's not that my parents didn't foster it. I was just a sports kid.
Okay. Okay.
And we did sports. That's what I did.
Right.
So it wasn't until several years later, when I was in college, that I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I was straddling this advertising, broadcasting, public relations, photography, and art.
Okay.
And so that exposure to art in college made me realize I think I can do both. So I picked a career in advertising.
Okay.
and it's a form of commercial art. But I feel that I really missed out on what it would be like to be an artist. So I have tried so hard to create a life as creating art events,
Right.
producing art events, and being involved with the arts, because it definitely fills part of me that I know is so important and important for others.
Wow.
That was a long answer, wasn't
No,
it?
I mean, but that was a fantastic answer. Like, to get that much perspective on how this has always, sounds like it was in the background for a long time, but it's always been something that you were interested in, or I don't know, wanted to have in your life.
Yeah, it's always been there. I traveled to Europe after college, and I was the happiest I've ever been in museums. And I remember I was in Paris for 5 days, and I bought a museum pass. And so I just went to museum every single day, and I had my journal, and I would just write, take notes, and just being around art, being around creative thinkers, being around innovators inspires me. It makes me happy. It makes me feel at peace. It makes me feel calm. And I just haven't been able to create my own art necessarily.
Right, right. So is that in the works next? Is that
Well,
part
I
of
don't.
the plan, or?
I don't really have the time.
With all of your free time,
Yeah,
Renee, why not?
I certainly dream about it and want to carve out time and space to create. But right now, I'm really happy creating events, activities, programming, curating for other people to enjoy.
Okay.
So sometimes I've been called an art administrator. I have no art administration background. I don't know how to do that. I just have taken my experience in advertising and marketing and project management and applied it to arts events.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like art administrator sounds like a very dry. It doesn't fit you at all. It doesn't. That's not the way I would ever describe you or what I've seen you do.
Well,
Art administrator.
Thank you. There's a lot to put, like you think about Ben Design, for example.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm so lucky I partner with Martha Murray, great woman, and she and I laugh sometimes because we get so ingrained in the details and the minutia that sometimes we forget to look up. Like, oh my gosh, look what we're doing. Look who we've brought to Bend, Oregon to speak on creativity and design and innovation. And together we want to make sure that we can really enjoy it and be immersed in it ourselves. But you know, quite honestly, we're doing spreadsheets and making travel arrangements and making sure our speakers get from point A to point B, and making sure that we have Gabriel there to shoot footage of the event. I mean, there's all the details that are behind the scenes that no one really knows about, but you have to do it.
Right.
And I do enjoy doing it. I do.
Right. So yeah, so there is it is administrative, but it's, I don't know, I see you as far more of a creative force than an administrative force. But yes, it sounds like you are top notch in that area as well, like in that side of it too. So.
Got some pretty mad Google Drive skills, let me tell you.
You're like docs, email, back and forth.
Is it on the drive?
Right. And so, I mean, what are, like, I can't even remember all the different organizations that you either started in this town or you advise, you're on the board of, or what was like the first, so you said, I don't know how many years ago it was that you started your own agency. And then after that you went to work for Hum Kombucha.
Yes.
But when did you also begin, like you were you were one of the founders of the Bend Design Conference, right?
Yes. So it started, so Pat Clark is the founder of Atelier 6000, which became the Bend Art Center. So she came to me in 2011 and talked about starting a contemporary creative arts center. and that's what Scale House is.
Okay.
So that time, Pat Clark and I, Christy Lanfrey, Cassandra Schindler, Sandy Anderson, Elizabeth Quinn, Dave Fox, we all got together and thought, what would it look like to have a contemporary visual arts center in Bend?
Okay.
So we wrote a 501c3 application. It got approved. And the grand vision then and still is to have an actual visual arts center.
Okay.
And maybe partner with a performing arts center. Mm-hmm. And the thought is to have exhibition space, space for workshops, a black box theater, a cafe. And we believe so much in the mission that we just decided to develop programming until we could actually have a bricks and mortar headquarters home.
Okay.
And we were new, and there's so many arts organizations in this community.
Yeah.
It's really hard to go out and start, proving who you are and asking for money when you haven't done anything.
Right.
So we started with workshops the first year. We did some printmaking workshops, some symbolism, visual studies workshops, and then started the Bend Design Conference. I was in Portland one day and I saw that Portland has a weekly design conference and thought, hey, we could do that here in Bend. Mm-hmm. That was 5 years ago, and started it from scratch. And here we are 5 years later, and this year it was a 4-day event. We partnered with Bend Film, opening night to screen the film Obey Giant, and then have a full day of talks, a full day of workshops, and then a day of what we call Design for Good, where we apply all the design hands-on, whether it's graphic design or design thinking through a design charrette, to look at how to solve some critical issues in our own community.
Wow. What were some of the things you guys tackled this year, or organizations that you helped with?
Well, one of my favorites is working with an organization called Visible, and they're out of Portland.
Okay.
And they started right after Trump was elected, and they were concerned that nonprofits representing marginalized communities would not only receive reduced funding, but they wouldn't have any dollars to allocate towards creative services to get their story out, share their mission, and fundraise. So they started an organization where they brought creatives in to donate their services and create logos or creative work for nonprofits.
Okay.
So this year we partnered with Bend Film in Out Central Oregon and developed a logo for their film screenings that will be at Tin Pan Theater.
Nice, okay.
So we had 40 designers come in on a Saturday. They did a design sprint all day.
Wow, okay.
Out Central Oregon came in and talked about their mission, what they wanted to accomplish. These designers created. We had judges come in, give them feedback, and then Out Central Oregon selected their logo, and now they're going to use it for their event.
Wow. I mean, and that's part of the design conference every year.
Yeah, well, we did it last year, this year, and we're going to keep doing it every year and trying to select a local nonprofit who can really benefit from some creative services.
Okay.
So that's just a highlight as far as what we're looking at locally, and how can we get the mission of Out Central Oregon communicated in our community.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. And you said that so how old are your kids?
They are 10 and 12. I have a 4th grader and a 6th grader, 2 little girls.
And sounds like they have their own interests, their own passions, the artistic
Yes. My oldest is an actor.
Okay.
She's been in theater through Beat.
Yeah.
And actually in this very space, she was Peter Pan. So she was her first lead role.
Nice.
And she's one of those children who just looks really happy and comfortable on stage.
Okay.
Her face, it's really bright. She has jazz hands. But she also does soccer. She did cross country this year.
Okay.
She skis. And then the little one, Ruby, is really into photography.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay.
So their dad was a photographer, and I can't help but think that maybe she got that from him.
Right.
She's received a few cameras, video cameras, Polaroid cameras. She wants a GoPro for Christmas. I cannot tell you how many times I've been captured on video in situations I don't want to be captured on video, or maybe getting mad at one of them and something's being recorded. I said, Ruby, we have a rule in the household. You got to tell me when you're pushing play.
Right.
So,
like no guerrilla filmmaking.
Exactly,
like, I need to
exactly.
know what's happening here.
So I've tried to create a environment where they are exposed to art, but they've really naturally gravitated towards it. You know, they lost their father when they were 1 and 3, and part of their therapy was art therapy.
Oh, okay.
So actually drawing about the experience of the loss and able to articulate it because they were so young. It's really hard to make sense of, you know, your father no longer living, and it really proved to help them. And I feel like they can articulate their feelings pretty well.
Yeah.
So.
And do they sort of tag along with you at all as you're working on like the design conference and Scale House? And
Oh yes.
I mean, they must, because you're pretty much every day of every week, it seems like you are involved with something going on.
I joke that they'll either be in therapy over it, or they'll be an artist or a writer, something. Well, there'll be something fabulous regardless. But no, and there's a couple stories related to that. For Ben Design, we were working with the Stir agency, and Eric and Tim were showing us designs. And Adeline, my oldest, came with me. So they had designs up on the wall, and Adeline got into critiquing, and then she started drawing and put it up on the board next to Eric's work. So Eric sent it to me as a concept direction, but giving her credit, of course. And then the other joke is I'm lucky enough to be a partner at Liberty Gallery. It's called At Liberty Arts Collaborative with Jenny Green and Kari Vaughn. And in the very back, we have the FACP room. Does anyone know what FACP even stands for?
Something about fire. Fire tubes and pipes and sprinkler systems and stuff.
So they love to go to First Friday. I mean, they like, over First Friday. But they hang out in this teeny tiny room.
Okay.
You know, kids like little spaces.
Yeah.
So Jenny, Kari, and I laugh that, again, they'll either be in therapy or they'll have their own gallery someday with, you know, showing all their work.
Right.
Yes, they do tag along with me a lot. They've, in a way, been forced into probably more grown-up situations than other kids, because I'm not going to get a babysitter to go to the grocery store. I mean, they always go everywhere with me for the most part.
Right.
But I think it's proved to work for them. They can have conversations with adults. They entertain themselves, and they're only 2 years apart, so they're a great unit.
That was going to be my next question: is do they get on well together?
They do. They're very different, but they almost have this twin mentality.
Oh yeah.
And I don't really know what that means exactly, because I'm not a twin, nor have I had twins. But
just from movies and
I
stuff,
can just see how they can communicate without communicating. They really stick up for each other, and sometimes it's hard to infiltrate. I've seen that with other kids and even myself, where they're so connected that I can't break in.
Right.
But it's good. I think it's good for them. It's good for me. The older one sometimes mothers the younger one, which is annoying to me and the younger one, but that's just her job. She's firstborn.
And so when you lost your husband, at that point in time, did you already have your own agency, or where were you in the spectrum?
No, I was working with Paul Evers at TBD.
Okay.
So, and we started that agency in '97, I believe, and lost my husband in 2010. So I had a safe place to land work-wise, and a lot of grace and patience with my business partners and my coworkers. So that was good. And I took about, I think, 4 weeks off of work and then went back. And I was really happy to have a place to go every day.
Yeah.
I needed that.
Yeah.
And we closed in 2015.
Okay.
So TBD closed 2015. And then that's when I started Renee Mitchell Creative, just a little boutique consulting. And one of my first clients was Hum Kombucha, which TBD did all the branding work when it went from Kombucha Mama to Hum Kombucha.
Okay.
So I'd already worked with them for several years, and they asked me to come on and freelance, and then just kept getting more and more and more.
Okay.
And then I was hired on as director of marketing, and I've been there 3.5 years.
So it was kind of an organic shift.
It was.
Together.
And the company keeps growing and becoming more and more competitive in the beverage and kombucha space.
Okay.
So there's a joke there about every year I raise my hand and say, you need to hire someone that knows more than I do because I've never done this before. So I hired my boss,
Okay.
who's great. And it's kind of funny to hire your boss. But I've learned a ton there that's really helped me in actually the more of the creative passions that I have. Just
Okay.
how you communicate effectively through a presentation, finances,
Right.
back to those Google spreadsheets.
Right, yes, yeah.
How you manage a budget for Ben Design. I mean, so I've learned some really invaluable skills about the business side of marketing, and it's just really interesting looking at the beverage space.
There you go. Yeah.
There's only so many beverages we all consume in a day.
Right.
What are yours?
Coffee,
Coffee?
for sure.
Yep.
Usually supplements of some kind.
Okay.
Definitely like a protein shake or something somewhere in there, and then lots of water. That's
Yeah.
kind of my day.
And beer, I see.
And yeah, like then at the end of the day,
Yep.
glass of wine, maybe whiskey or beer. One of the three, not all
Yeah.
mixed together.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of that's my day as consumption there. What about you? Are you a
Coffee for sure.
yeah?
I mean, the most exciting thing for me in the morning is coffee.
Yes, I know. I have
It's
to
a
kind
little
of
sad, but that's
pace myself.
coffee, water, kombucha, and then in the evening, wine.
Yeah. So it's a good town for
Yeah,
for all of us.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
And so, what do you think? What do you see as next for you? I mean, is it you? You like I say, every time I turn around, you already have your hand in so many things in this town. You also are behind TEDx, right? TEDx.
no,
Ben.
the TBD, the agency.
Okay.
We helped do all the creative work for that.
Okay.
But I didn't, start it from a producer standpoint or programming.
But are you involved on the board or
No,
anything with
no,
them?
no.
Okay. So that's like the one organization.
Just one,
in
that's
town
it.
That you're,
Oh, Charlie,
that you're
stop. No, but on that, I sometimes feel like I have to defend myself and be really honest and transparent. I know why I get involved with so many things, and sometimes it's just to avoid pain.
Right. Right.
It's my therapy,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying it's a good thing, but when you're busy and you're distracted and you're immersed in something you really love, then it takes away from the loss that I've experienced in my life.
Okay.
And again, I don't know if that's good or bad. I'm sure therapists would tell me different things.
Right.
But I know why I've done what I've done. In
Right.
addition just to loving it, I
Right.
love the work. It feeds my soul. It inspires me. It makes me happy. So I know why I
Yeah,
do it,
yeah.
but I also know there's a side to, protecting this
Right. Right.
this thing right here.
I've certainly seen, when I see you at all these different events, there is always just this radiance, this real joy that just shines out of you, that you can tell. Like I can just tell that you genuinely love all the things that you get up to. And that's one of those things that has stood out in my mind since I first met you, like whatever it was, 5 years ago or something, when we first moved to town. Like you just always have this real excitement for whatever it is I see you doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's nice to hear, because I don't always feel that way,
Right.
And I've sometimes made sacrifices. It does bring me joy, and then I think, it brings me joy, but am I giving up time with my daughters? Or am I training in to be with my girlfriends? And it's something I'm really exploring and working on right now. Life's short.
Right. Yeah.
I know it's super cliche, but my time with my daughters, it's fleeting.
Yeah.
I've got 6 more years until my oldest goes to college.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm seeing 50 in a couple of years. And I just want to make sure that...
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
So thank you for telling me about the joy, because I don't always feel it, but I know why I do it, and I'm loving it, and I do feel like I'm alive in those situations, and I need times to feel alive.
Yeah.
Because there's been so many other times in the last 9 years where I have really not felt that way. So again, I know why I do it, because it brings me that joy. But how do you experience joy in other ways, where you're really present with your children, and you're really present with your friends and your family? And that is something I definitely want to work on.
Right.
In 2020. Hindsight 2020. No.
There you go. But I think too, you would agree with this, that in order to really experience that joy with your kids, I mean, at least what I find with my girls is that too much time with them and your brain starts to melt and it like runs out of your ears, and you're not enjoying that time with them anymore. I mean, whether it's summer break or whatever, like there are times when you're like, okay,
it's
time for you to go back to school.
No, you're right.
And it's that, it's like you need, I think that was something I kind of got lost in for a while with my girls, was so involved with just being there for them that I kind of forgot to be there for the stuff for myself. I'm trying to fix that now, but it sounds like you find real, it's energizing for you. It recharges you, all of these things that you get into.
It does.
Then that carries over to the time you do have with your girls, I would imagine, where you're like, okay, now I've got energy again. Like, let me spend time with them.
It does. It really does energize me. I don't work out every day. I don't meditate. I don't go to yoga. I don't run. I don't do those things. I do this instead.
Right.
Drink
that's kombucha.
That's what I do.
You do all of this.
And when I've been down on myself about, am I there enough for my daughters?
Right.
My dear friends always remind me, look at the example you're setting for them.
Exactly, yeah.
You're going to work every day, you're making a living, and you're volunteering in the community and trying to enhance arts and culture in the community.
Right.
You're setting a really good example. And part of me knows that, and the other part of me knows when Adeline looks at me and says, I just want you to sit and talk with me, that's also important.
Yeah.
But I think it was a couple years ago at the Caldera event, I'm not sure if you were there. I was emceeing the event and the girls came. And so there's a room full of 200 people, and I'm introducing and I'm talking, and they're waving at me. Hi, Mama.
That's awesome.
Hi, Mama. And I stopped and I said, hi, girls. And I was like, well, you can't stop the show. But I was like, I have to acknowledge them. And I just said, my 2 biggest fans are in the room right now. And so when you got in the car, they were so proud. Like, we were proud of you, Mom. So
that's fantastic. I mean, and I'm sure they have seen you fight your way. I'll just go away. Sorry, I'm being attacked by a feather.
A fuzz.
I'm sure, but they've watched you like fight for that, fight to get to that place where like, oh, there's Mom running the show, giving a speech in front of all these people. That's that. I have to think that's gonna be the thing that sticks with them and that they remember and kind of guides them as they try to figure their stuff out.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I really do. Who knows?
Well, and that's the other part of it, is like it's a kind of a shot in the dark, right?
It
like
is.
you do your best on all those fronts, and then it just, what's gonna happen is gonna happen, and
Yeah.
there's only so much you can do about it.
I think they hear more often than not, I'm doing my best, girls. I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best.
Right.
But I really do believe they are living fun, fantastic, meaningful lives. I really believe that in my heart.
Then, I mean, come on, you're an incredibly loving person. I have to know there's no way that doesn't come through to them, and that they don't feel that love all the time, and see you do so much in the community. Like, what an incredible role model that is for them. Yeah.
Thank you. You're very kind.
Yeah. No, I'm
Not sure I deserve
trying to
these
follow in
accolades.
your footsteps.
Oh, well, look at this.
Yes, look at all
I
this
love
magnificence.
It. That's great.
It's coming. It's coming along. We're getting there.
Good.
Yeah. So no, I've always, and that's the other thing that always stands out in my mind is not just always seeing you at events, and not just always seeing that enthusiasm, that energy, but yeah, always seeing your girls with you. And I'm like, wow, like, whew, you've got your hands full.
I do.
Yeah. Do you have family here or anything, or is it just you guys, just you three?
My father-in-law lives here,
Okay.
and my sister-in-law and my father-in-law recently got married. Sadly, I lost my mother-in-law about 3-4 years, several years ago. But my mom and dad, and my dad,
Okay.
I got two,
Yes.
and my siblings all are in Portland.
Okay.
And they, collectively, everyone's a huge help. My mom comes over and stays with the girls, and we go there quite a bit. So, and then really my family in Bend is my community and my friends. And I'm still in awe of how much this community has showed up for the girls and me.
Oh. That's
I mean, I
fantastic.
can't, I mean, it's actually something that's really hard for me to talk about, because I can never repay or express my gratitude appropriately for the dinners, the cards, picking up my girls,
Right.
doing my girls' hair and getting them in their costume for something. I mean, people really, really, really have shown up for us.
Oh, that's
And
fantastic.
it's, and then people remember. I get phone calls, I get texts from people I would never even expect to remember
Right.
the time of year that I lost Jason, or what the girls might be going through. And after Jason died, people thought I would leave and go back to Portland.
Okay.
And I think my mom was like, maybe.
Right.
And I mean, honestly, I still think about it sometimes, but this is our home, and this is
Yeah.
what they know.
Right.
And they know they can call on my friends for help anytime. And my friends show up for them. I know.
Wow.
I'm very lucky.
Yeah. What more can you ask for than that?
I can't. And
That's. Yeah, that's a gift that you just have to. You just have to like thank your lucky stars. You're like, I'm sure you say to yourself all the time, you're like, what did I do to deserve
I'm
this?
right. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I just, and I don't feel like I can ever repay it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean.
I mean, I'm not one that can have tons of play dates and invite people over. And I mean, I'm just always running, trying
Yeah.
to keep my head above water every single day. And then you have these friends who are inviting my girls over, inviting us over for dinner. And I'm thinking, when's the last time I didn't even over to my house for dinner? It's been a long, 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 long time.
Yeah.
So that's one of my 2020 resolutions.
But I
have
think
people
too,
over.
I think too, like that moment will come when someone needs something that you specifically and uniquely can provide, like whatever that is, whether that's comfort or love or help or advice or whatever, and that will be your chance to be like, oh, I get to
Yeah.
do this for someone else now. That's,
Yeah. And then I just try to think the other ways that I contribute. And I mean, that's maybe another reason why I get involved with things, because that's my area of contributing.
yeah,
It might not be this to this,
but it's,
which I also think is part of protecting this, but it's, you know, I often say I'm a work in progress. I'm working on it. I'm working through it, and yeah, I really hope, I don't want anyone to ever go through, any loved one or someone I know, or anyone for that matter, my goodness, to go through losing someone, but it happens. I mean, it's reality. So I hope I can help in some way, the way that people have helped me.
yeah. And that's, really, that's the best thing you can do, is just be there to help someone the way people have helped you, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you, I mean, you, like with your work with Caldera, I mean, I can't imagine what I've, again, one of the things, obviously many things about you stand out to me, but the organizations that you seem most passionate about are the ones that impact other people's lives. And the one that, you know, Caldera is where, Caldera is where I think I remember the evening you're talking about, that you emceed the show and you said hi to your girls and stuff. And that was where I learned about Caldera. And Caldera, for those of you watching the show, Caldera is a nonprofit that does extraordinary things with at-risk youth out of Portland and rural Oregon as well. And they work with these kids from the first time they go to camp with Caldera to all the way through high school, and they mentor them and they provide them scholarships and do all this stuff. And I was so impressed. And you were like the driving force behind that. Certainly when I first saw you at their fundraiser, it was like you were the driving force behind it. And I realized, you know, there are so many fantastic people that work with Caldera, but
A ton. So it's, you know, the office is in Portland, started by Dan Wyden, who started Wyden and Kennedy, the world's largest independent advertising agency. Came up with Just Do It. And he started the program, and there's a phenomenal staff in Portland. And since we work with kids here in Central Oregon, there are 6 middle schools we work with, and great artist mentors, and a few board members over here, but most of the board members are in Portland. But what we try to do every year is have an event in Portland and have an event in Central Oregon.
Right.
So I was lucky enough to work with Christy Lanfrey and Noelle Fredland and some other people here in Central Oregon to host this event. And
right.
it's really magical because camp is on Blue Lake, just outside of Sisters. And people in Portland don't get access to that as much.
Right.
And even people who live in Bend act like 45-minute drive. They're going so far and they have to gas up the car.
Right, yes.
But
Oh
once
my
you
God.
once you get out
Right.
there and you experience the magic of just the land, the environment, and you can understand when kids show up on that bus. So these kids come in from Central Oregon, and we're talking from the Warm Springs Reservation, Madras, Bend, Redmond, Terrebonne, and then youth from inner city Portland, and they pull up to this magical place,
Right.
school buses, and walk out, and they see it. I mean, the transformation for them begins the moment they step off that bus.
Right.
And they're being exposed to all different types of creativity, the environment, how to take care of the environment, and then also going through life skills, lessons, trust falls, writing out dreams and wishes, learning a lot about equity, racial equity, you know, kids going through a lot of different experiences in their life. And it's a really safe place. And they learn so many times we put these labels on kids where they're underserved or they're at risk, but they're kids. They just show up.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what's happened back here. They show up and they're given the support and the love and the empathy to do what's best for them. And that's the beautiful part about Caldera. It's all really strength-based. I mean, we're giving them the tools to find what they already possess inside of themselves and go from there.
Right.
And
right.
be compassionate, independent young people.
And that's it's kind of all you can ask. I mean, that's like that's what every kid needs and wants.
There's a young woman who's lived on the reservation her whole life, and at Caldera, everyone has a camp name.
Okay.
What's your camp name? Did you have one?
I did. I think I don't remember exactly. I think it was Dirtball.
Oh, nice. I'm gonna have to turn this interview around and ask you what dirtball really
dirtball,
means.
I think is. I'm not sure where that came from, but that was what when we made our little.
They're called cookies.
Cookies, our little wood circle.
Wood
cookies.
circles, name tags. You came up with dirtball.
I think I went with Dirtball. Yeah.
So it's also part of the transformation is that they give up that past identity and they create a new name. But this young woman from Warm Springs Reservation, her camp name is Doe. And when she first came to camp, she had a really hard time speaking in front of a group. And through her 7 years, at the end, she's giving a spoken word performance in front of all these campers, artist mentors. And she made a conscious choice to go back to the Warm Springs Reservation and work with youth in early childhood development.
Wow.
I know, it's really, and she shared with me once that she thought she wouldn't go back. And no, I've gained so much from my experience at Caldera. I now want to go back and work with young people and be a positive role model and a positive woman role model in these young children's lives. Power of creativity, power of Caldera.
Yeah.
So I know Caldera's great.
But that seems to be the through line for everything you get involved in. It's creativity, it's artistic, it is helping people become better versions of themselves through creativity and through artistic endeavor. But also, I mean, on the business side as well, like with BIN Design Conference, it has multiple levels, it seems. All the stuff you get into, but there's that through line of becoming a better version of yourself through creativity and through artistic endeavor. Yeah, would that?
Yeah, that's my thread. That's my theme. I've never thought about it that way, but I think you're right.
I haven't either until I sat down.
I haven't intentionally thought about it, but I think you're right. And it's just creating a community where we have exposure to arts and culture. I mean, my very, very favorite arts organization is Ben Film. I mean, I'm a huge, and I've been lucky enough to be a part of it. But what I love about it is, hold that thought real quick. Why I want to enhance arts and culture in our community is, and it goes back to my experience as a third grader, and almost being told, because I wasn't in art classes, you're not an artist. And I just don't, I believe every single one of us is born an artist. And it's just if it's brought out of you or not.
Right.
So creating events and a community that supports and values art is a huge, huge, huge passion of mine.
Okay.
And why I love Ben Film is because anyone and everyone can go sit in a movie.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? But then you have these independent films telling stories, taking 500 people in Tower Theater to another part of the country, another part of the world, and learning about something that they might not ever have exposure to, and that is art. and it's
And
anyone
it's
can
perspective changing.
right, and
Yeah.
anyone can have access to it through
Yeah.
Ben Film, and that's what I love. We might not get everyone in to take a writing class or take a drawing class or listen to an artist talk or
Right,
walk into
okay.
a gallery and appreciate art because maybe they're told I don't like art or I'm not an artist. But there's something about film that I think can appeal to everyone.
I like that. It's the sneaky way to get art into everyone's life. It's like, oh, just come see a movie.
Right.
And everyone's like, yeah, sure, I can see a movie. Whereas like they may not go to a poetry reading, or they may not go to a gallery.
Right.
But they'll go see a movie, even
Right.
if it's something that they may not really know much about or something. And then they get their world rocked, they get their perspective shifted, they get their
Completely.
Yeah.
In tears, laughing.
yeah.
So, how'd we get on my favorite arts organization? I'm not sure. Where's Todd Luby?
I
Did
don't
Todd
know, but
Luby
that's,
just call?
yeah, I'm
Did
all
Todd just
for
call?
it. Did he slip you $20 before you came over? It was like, make
No.
sure you mention Ben Film.
No. It's just one organization I've been really. We started when I was at TBD. We started working with them, doing all their marketing work,
Yeah.
which is really, really fun. It's fun to do marketing for an arts organization. That's also a fun place where my worlds collide.
Right,
is
right.
being able to market it from a creative standpoint, a creative entity. So it's interesting when those two disciplines come together for me.
And I would hope that when you're doing marketing for something creative, for a creative organization, you get to really be creative and like let those muscles flex a little bit more
Right.
than you would for, say, a standard
Exactly.
for-profit company or something.
Yeah, I mean, you still need to have your guardrails so you're communicating clearly, but you're right, it is more freeing. And I think why a lot of agencies work with arts organizations, nonprofits, they typically don't get paid. So,
Well, that's where the big bucks are.
well, and it's kind of, there's almost a little trade-off. Like, I
Right.
happen to have a little bit more freedom,
Right.
and we're going to maybe push this a little bit more than, say, another client. No, but you're
Gotcha.
right. Yeah.
What do you, I almost hesitate to ask the question because you already have your hand in so many things. But it sounds like your girls, they're pulling you, they've got their own interests, and I'm sure they're pulling you into those in some ways. But what do you see as the next, like, big, exciting thing on your horizon?
Let's see. Well, what I really, really, really want to see happen is Scalehouse open a visual arts
An actual-
center.
the-
That is
The way you described it,
Yes.
right? With like a cafe and a black
yes,
box theater.
Yes, I'd like to see that happen before I die. It's not funny, but so, and I really believe it can happen, and I believe it can happen soon. I feel that the community is ready for it.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see, that's priority, but also if we could partner with a performing arts center and you almost create a creative campus.
Okay.
So locals, visitors go to a place where you can see a performance, you can walk across the street and you can go into an exhibition space. Maybe there's a sculpture garden outside. You can pick up a notebook, you can have a cup of coffee. Your child can take a writing class. It's a place that you can go and you can take lessons, but you can also immerse yourself in it, you can learn, and you can admire. That's a true dream. And it just takes a lot of money, I'm gonna be honest, and time.
Yeah.
So that is what I'd love to see happen. And it's just a true reality for me is, I have to make a living to pay for those kiddos'
Right.
soccer and put them through college someday. And but I would just love to carve out more time to make that happen.
Okay.
And I think it's, like I said, I think it's promising. I do believe we're getting closer and closer. And even just looking at how Scale House works with At Liberty, that's our home right now. We have a desk at Liberty.
Oh, wow.
And there's just a lot of synergy between Scale House programming and what our At Liberty does. And so, just how do we all come together? How can we collaborate and promote more arts and cultural programming in our community? There's so much out there already. And I love what the High Desert Museum does. I've already talked about Bend Film. But I do think there is an opportunity for some more contemporary arts focus. And one thing that Scale House does in partnership with OSU Cascades is we have Scale House Voices, where we bring in designers and artists just to do an hour talk at the college. It's free.
Know about that.
It's free. And we've brought in some really interesting artists. And so you go for an hour, you learn, and go on your way. So how can it doesn't have to be Bend Design for 4 days. It can be an hour talk one night.
Right.
But just always having events and people exposed to art. And I admire so many of the other arts organizations in town who are doing that. Mm-hmm. And if there's room for more, great.
And if there is, you're gonna find it. You're gonna be there.
That might room over there. So that is my dream, that's my vision, that's what I'd love to see happen. And there are great people who I'm working with who also want to see it happen. So I believe we can get there.
Isn't that, what you just said resonates with me a lot. Like, one of my favorite parts of Bend Film, Bend Design, At Liberty, all the of course, all of the different theater organizations in town. Like, I've done a little bit of theater, and what I love about all these different organizations, they all have different visions and different missions and everything, but it's always the people. Mm-hmm. It is always the people that are involved, who are always, they always are a little offbeat, and they have kind of their own perspective on the world that stands out from the usual. Mm-hmm. Like, to me, that is the driving force. That is what I love so much about all the things I've seen you involved in and all the organizations I've gotten involved in. It's always about the people. Mm-hmm. Like with Bend Film, one of my favorite things is that we are so diligent in bringing in directors and producers and actors and stuff. Sitting down and talking with those people, and you're introduced to this whole different way of seeing the world that I just find really fascinating.
I agree. And it's refreshing. And we're lucky to live where we live, but we just don't have access to that all the time. So when directors, filmmakers come in, and the speakers through Bend Design, Scale House, when artists from their showing At Liberty come, it's those connections are really interesting. And I learned so much from them, and they are always so grateful to be invited. I think sometimes we say, oh gosh, do you want to come to Bend?
Right.
And they're like, we love Bend. So that's also refreshing that they're excited to come and share their talents and their passions with us. But it is the people.
Yeah.
I feel so grateful to be surrounded and partner and collaborate with such interesting, creative individuals.
Yeah.
And the list is long, and I feel really, really lucky that they're in my life.
This is me, and it's kind of connected, but do you find yourself when you're around all these creative people, do you ever find yourself thinking, like, why am I here?
Oh yeah. What's it called? Like imposter syndrome. Yes.
Where you're just like, whoa, they should be kicking me out. Like, I have no business in this mix.
Yes, I'm so glad you asked that. It's whenever Bend Design ends, I have a little bit of the blues. I think I'm tired.
Yeah.
I think I was telling you, I've got work, you gotta, write thank you notes and finish all the paperwork and do all those things. But then I also feel a little bit of imposter syndrome. Why am I doing, am I qualified to be doing this? I think that's part of it. But it inspires me to do more than the administrative work, to really immerse myself in the understanding and the practice of design thinking, so I can learn and have conversations with people who are coming and not feel, why am I here?
Right, right.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
well,
I've definitely felt that before.
Okay.
And we're all human, right?
Yeah. When it sounds like, I mean, I'm a huge fan of like Tim Ferriss and Chase Jarvis and all these other creative people that are out there interviewing, with their podcasts, interviewing people functioning at the highest levels. And across the board, they all talk about suffering from imposter syndrome. And I'm like, well, obviously you just have to keep going. You just have to keep pushing through and keep doing whatever it is you're doing.
Well, I'm really hard on myself, and that's, I'm not always going to do things right. I'm not always going to do things well. I'm going to make mistakes, and maybe there's times that I shouldn't be at the table, and maybe there's times I should.
Right.
But I'm just going to keep my head down and keep working and do what I believe in and do the best I can. And that's really, at the end of the day, when I put my head on the pillow, if I know I did all those things and I was kind and respectful, that's all I can really ask for.
Right. What more can you do than that?
Right.
Right. Yeah. I find that, like, to go along with the imposter syndrome thing, there's also this feeling of like you want to check in with someone else. Of like, okay, can someone reassure me that I'm not screwing this up?
Right.
But I think the truth of it is that we're all, every single one of us, making it up as we go. Like, regardless of how polished you are in your day-to-day life, basically we're all making it up as we go.
Right.
And things are going to come along and happen that you have no idea how to deal with. And yet, somebody has to deal with it. And so whether it's, figuring out what needs to happen with an organization, or dealing with a crisis, or just dealing with the day-to-day, it's like, I don't know if I'm doing it right, but at least I'm here, at least I'm doing it.
Well, I think that's the upside and downside of being a leader. I mean, I sometimes feel like leaders get this, oh gosh, you did a great job, thank you. But they're also not seeing the side where you're having to make decisions that impact people and impact budgets. You might make the wrong decision. You're the one getting the complaints. That comes with the territory. And there's a lot of hard days, sad days, frustrating days. And, working through that, it's not always easy. I mean, it's not all,
Right.
Isn't this great? And I have made plenty of mistakes along the way, and not handle things the way I should.
Yeah. Are you good about, at the end of the day, like, can you put that behind you? Or do you lie there at 3 o'clock in the morning going, I wish I had done this better? Or...
Yeah. Honestly, I'm really hard on myself. I'm getting better. I'm definitely getting better. And knowing there's times it's over, Renee. Why worry about it?
Right.
I mean, if I hurt someone,
that's different.
That's really, if I hurt someone, made them upset, that's harder for me to get over.
Right.
It's part of that imposter syndrome, though, too, that if you feel like you let someone down because you didn't do it right, then I question, okay, should I be doing this? Should I not be doing this?
Right.
So I definitely think I've gotten better as I get older. And with Ben Design, it's great working with Martha, because I can call her and be like, okay, I just got a vent. And so I just throw up, for 5 minutes, and she steers me in the right direction, and then I'm good.
Okay.
And vice versa, And so, just like you said, both of us, we've never done this before. I mean, we have 5 years under our belt now, but still things come up every year that we've never, ever experienced before, and you have to figure out how to handle it.
Right.
We're just like you've never, well, I don't know, I shouldn't assume. Have you done this before?
like hosted a show like this? Or?
I mean, I know with other people, but before?
No, this is just kind of a thing that I knew I wanted to do, so I decided to do it. And I'm like, well, I'm sure I'll have moments where I suck, and then there will be moments where I don't, and try to keep sucking less each time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's that, and even like renovating this building, like putting together whatever this place is going to become. Never done anything like this before, but what the hell? Like, life is short.
Right.
It's like you better just go for it and make the most of what you can do. And if like they say, if you wait until you're ready, you're never going to do it.
Exactly.
So just start.
Well, and I figured I could play it safe and not do anything because I don't want to hurt someone's feelings or make someone mad or mess up.
Yeah.
But then I wouldn't have been able to do anything I've been able to do.
Right, yeah.
So.
Well, and I mean, on the emotional side of that, like, that it applies, like you're saying, in business or creative endeavors or whatever, but it also applies to your personal life of like, you have to put yourself at risk for disappointment, sadness, sorrow. You have to put yourself at risk for those things if you ever want to achieve joy and accomplishment and real, like, the feeling of real passion. The only way to be able to reach for to be able to kind of reach for that highest point is to make yourself vulnerable to the lowest. And that's how the game works. Like, that's life.
It is. Well, I think until you go through something where you're really pushed in ways you never thought were imaginable, do you realize when you come out of it and you see a little bit of light, how those hard times make life more enjoyable, or how they put things in perspective, or they help you get through other situations in life.
Has that been the case for you with what you've been through?
Absolutely. It ebbs and flows, though. I mean, I'm going to be really honest. There was a period of time when I was really aware of, this is important. Don't worry about this. No one's died. No one's lost their job. You haven't lost a friend. I mean, come on. You put things in perspective.
Right.
Or another real learning for me is just time. I don't have a lot of time, so I try to make really good use of my time. But then at the end of the day, I'm just like everyone else. I have feelings, I have emotions, and even though I went through a horrific loss, I still worry.
Right.
I still worry about silly things I shouldn't worry about. I still spend time and maybe money on things I shouldn't. I mean, you just do those things.
Yeah.
I'm human.
Yeah, like I said, we're all making it up as we go, right?
Right.
Like,
it's definitely shifted who I am and who I've become. I sometimes get a little bit cynical.
Oh yeah.
And resentful, and those are just things I don't want my daughters to see. So I try really hard not to be resentful or angry or.
You said you don't meditate or do anything like that. Like, do you work at, because I know, when you've been through bad things, it's real easy for, if you're not on top of it, your brain will just go into this, like, negative spiral.
Yeah.
And I find that the only way to stop that or stop it in its tracks is to be like, no, like, let's look at what is really happening right now. Like, children are happy and healthy. I'm happy and healthy. Nothing's on fire. It's like, okay, things are pretty good.
Right.
Try and keep it in perspective. Do you have a process for that, or is that what you do, or how do you handle when that starts happening, when that spiral starts building up?
For us, and I've seen it with the girls as well, it's more nights at home, quiet nights, home cooked meals, going to bed early, being organized keeps us all calm, even if we're really, really busy. It's when constantly running, going out to dinner, going to Newport Market in the morning before school to cobble together a lunch, which I've done many, many mornings.
Okay.
That's when I spin, and that's when the brain spins, and that's when I'm feeling frantic and I'm not at my best. And I've seen it in my girls. So just more and more time that we are calm and at home, we're all better.
And so that's something you consciously have to bring yourself back to. Like, we need to chill out. We need to spend a few nights at home.
And I've had to say no to a lot of things. I mean,
Yeah.
I love you say you see me at a lot of events. I've really cut back on those because I just can't do it.
Right.
I just, there was a period of time where I was going to things Monday through Friday night. And even if it was just for an hour here, hour there, and I just can't do that anymore.
Right.
I just can't. I mean, first of all, I have to be a chauffeur because I have to drive them places.
You are your children's Sherpa.
Yes,
You're like,
exactly.
I've got all your bags and all your jackets.
Seriously. I'm like, I didn't know about this part of the job.
Yeah, right, yes.
So,
that's the less exciting part.
That's my main, 5 to 7. You'll find me in my car. And then getting home and, they have homework.
Yeah.
Then often once they go to bed, I hop back on my computer and I start working, so. But I do know that I need to maybe meditate. I'm not all my meditating friends out there will be like, Renee Mitchell.
Yes, like Renee.
I know. You need to take care of yourself and this push for self-care. I know all that. I'm not being cynical about it, but it just doesn't fall into my daily routine right now.
Right.
So I'm trying to find other ways to take care of myself. That's all I can do right now.
Yeah. And it sounds like you were saying, time at home, time with your girls. That's
right.
Yeah.
I know people are like, you should run and you should do yoga and you should. You work out every morning.
Depending on the week, 3 to 5 mornings a week.
Oh, depending on the week, 3 to 5.
So three is my standard. 5 is when I'm trying to push to do something, to achieve something.
Yeah.
But it's that thing of, if I don't do that, I quickly start to feel like crap.
Yeah,
I just feel like crap, and I'm not happy with myself. I'm not happy with that lack of discipline, and it's like you start to get really just grumpy with yourself and with life and with other people, and just like, okay. I mean, it's like Joe Rogan says that, he was like, the person I am before I walk into the gym is whiny and makes excuses and grumps and complains. The person I am is completely different than the person I am when I walk out of the gym. When I'm just, I feel like, okay, I can handle what life is going to throw at me. And it's that, if I go more than a couple of days without that fix, then I get really just down with myself and grumpy with other people, and just, it's not pretty.
That's how I feel about producing an art event. Before it, I'm anxious, I'm grumpy, I'm tired, I'm in it, and at the end, I'm on top of the world.
That's great.
Yeah.
And
they'll give you muscles. Well, maybe moving all the things around before the art event.
Right.
Yes, that's my workout.
There you go. All schlepping boxes back and forth, and
My biceps are unbelievable.
Well, you said your kids are in sports and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Both of them in sports?
Both play soccer, both ski, both play basketball.
Are you a skier as well?
I am.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
We're going up tomorrow.
Yeah. Nice.
I think, is it snowing outside right now? I think it's supposed to be snowing.
I think it's supposed to be, yeah.
Yeah, we're all 3 going up tomorrow.
Nice. All right, so what is as we kind of wrap things up, where should people go to find out more about you? Do they follow you on Instagram, your website?
Yes.
What is your social media mode of choice?
Goodness, I'm not highly promotive. Let's see, I have 2 Instagram accounts.
Oh,
Renee
very
Mitchell.
Fancy.
Well, it's Renee A.S. Mitchell, Renee as Mitchell. That's my personal.
Okay.
So you'll just find pictures of my kids and travels, and
Okay.
but Renee Mitchell Creative
Okay.
is really more of my creative endeavors, creative inspiration, things I'm working on. So that's probably more appropriate. I have a website, Renee Mitchell Creative. It's just highlights some projects that I've worked on from Caldera, Art in Public Places, Scale House,
Yeah.
Ben Film. So a collection of my arts organization work and then some of my branding and marketing work.
Okay.
So I had this great desire when that Renee Mitchell Creative would morph into developing creative work for only arts organizations or social causes. That was my ambition.
Okay.
And I might get back to that someday.
Okay.
Yeah, I met with a woman the other day who had this great idea to rent out a billboard in Bend every month and change the creative every month related to an issue.
Wow.
I know. It's like, I love that kind
Yeah,
of work.
I
love
can see that. I can see that sparking you, being like, oh yeah.
And creating these, provocative messages that, change perception, make people think, how they're interacting with others, how they're interacting with the world, the environment, how they look at equity, how they look at race. So
Right.
I would love to do something like that at some point.
Okay.
And maybe that's a way of me becoming an artist as well.
It sounds to me like you are well into being an artist. I mean, you are incredibly creative in everything you're doing. So I think you get the title.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else that you want to promote right now? Anything going on, coming up? What's something that people need to know about? Or
Let's
are we kind
see.
of in a lull right now? 'Cause-
Let's see. Well, I definitely would keep your eye on Scale House and some interesting things to come. We are introducing our Scale House Voices series soon, and we have 3 artists and designers who are really exciting. We'll be announcing Ben Design lineup probably starting in March,
Oh wow. Okay.
so pretty soon. I mean, we stop, and then we start.
Yeah, I'm familiar. You're like, okay, that was good, and let's start again.
Yeah, and then
Good.
at Liberty, Kaila Farrell Smith, Native American artist, who's getting a lot of coverage right now. She's been challenging Governor Kate Brown about the type of work the governor is showing in her office. And
okay.
She is having an exhibition in May and June. I think that's all I can really share right now.
Wow.
We're working on a few other little pieces.
Okay.
So I would follow At Liberty and Scale House and Ben Design.
Okay. I think that gives people
Yeah.
lots of different places
Yes,
to go.
yes.
Awesome. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Renee.
Charlie.
You're
Thank
the
you.
best, and you're one of my favorite people in this town. So I'm really
thank
excited
you.
we finally got to sit down and talk. So.
It's an honor to be here and in your space.
Well,
thank
and
you.
knowing
Thank you.
knowing how tight your time is, I truly appreciate you making time to come and sit
Thank
down
you.
with me. So.
That's why it took a while.
Yeah, and then we'll do it again. I'm sure
right,
down the road
right,
too.
right.
I'm sure we'll have more to talk about. So
Thank you.
thanks. You're the best.
Thank you all.
Thanks for joining us. The Call to Create with host Charlie Teal is presented by Ghost Village Films and captured at Open Space Event Studio in Bend, Oregon. Subscribe and follow on YouTube, iTunes, and thecalltocreate.com.